Before the emergence of states or established trade networks, the mountains of the post-flood Near East were scoured clean of human population. To track the repopulation of this terrain, ancient ethnography relies on a foundational document known as the Table of Nations. This text operates as a coordinate-based system, mapping exactly how human civilization dispersed across the hemisphere. The structure is established immediately. Genesis chapter 10, verse 10 states, "Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and unto them were sons born after the flood." The text tracks three variables. It measures lineage through patriarchal descendants, linguistic divergence from isolated speech, and geography claiming specific physical terrain. The bedrock data point of this matrix is a single geographic node where three distinct branches of descendants diverge from a shared origin. Reading this record as a cartographic matrix reveals a structured geopolitical division. The scattered tribes of antiquity are mapped onto a precise grid of ancestry and land. The first geographic vector pushes north and west, moving away from the inland mountains toward the coastlines of the Mediterranean. The text documents this northern expansion carefully. Genesis chapter 10, verses 2 through 4, lists the sons of Japheth, including Gomer, Magog, and Yavin. As these populations reached the coastline and migrated toward the islands, physical water barriers enforced geographical isolation. That isolation produced the first distinct linguistic breaks. Genesis chapter 10, verse 5, notes the result of this maritime expansion. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands. The text then defines the parameters of this separation, every one after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. Land, language, kinship, and sovereignty are recorded as locked variables. Prioritizing this geographic and linguistic division explains why the Mediterranean islands developed distinct maritime cultures, insulated from the landlocked struggles of the Mesopotamian center. The focus then swings south, dropping out of the mountains and into the dense, flat basin of Mesopotamia. Genesis chapter 10, verse 6 catalogs this southern lineage, listing the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan. Here, the ethnographic record hits an anomaly. Genesis chapter 10, verse 8 specifies that Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. Up to this point, populations expanded as tribal family units. Nimrod represents a shift in organizational scale, the establishment of a kingdom under a single ruler. Genesis chapter 10, verse 10 marks the location of this consolidation. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. The text's claims as early urbanism are anchored in the brick ruins and massive foundations that still sit in the Shinar region today. Organizing a population behind fortified walls replaces decentralized territories with a concentrated, defensible urban hub. This model of power immediately replicates. Genesis chapter 10, verse 11 describes the expansion of this technology. Out of that land went forth Asher and builded Nineveh. The architectural ambition of the expansion is preserved in the massive, square-towered fortifications of Nineveh, proving a rapid escalation in large-scale engineering. The record pauses its rhythmic count of sons to document this transition from family lineage to the organized empire state. From the interior basin, the map drives west to the Mediterranean coast, establishing the descendants of Canaan. The boundaries here are mapped with intense specificity. Genesis chapter 10, verse 19 describes the border of the Canaanites stretching from Sidon, as thou comest to Gerar, unto Gaza. The stone remnants at Sidon provide the exact northernmost coastal anchor for this territory. The text then traces the border tightly inland, as thou goest unto Sodom and Gomorrah, and Admah and Zeboam, even unto Lasha. Drawing this perimeter connects the coastal cities directly to the inland settlements, enclosing the Dead Sea region in a defined territorial polygon. Genesis chapter 10, verse 20 concludes Ham's lineage with the same parameters. These are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations. By fixing the coordinates of the Canaanite borders, the text creates a foundational territorial record for the region. The geographic focus finally moves eastward to the lineage of Shem, the father of all the children of Eber. Genesis chapter 10, verse 21 identifies Shem precisely in relation to the other branches, noting he is the brother of Japheth the elder. Within this branch, the record registers a sudden fracture in the expansion, a geographical division that splits the ancient landmass. Genesis chapter 10, verse 25 details the birth of Peleg, explicitly recording that in his days was the earth divided. Inserting this chronological marker into the middle of a continuous lineage signals an event that disrupted the standard dispersal pattern. Setting the coordinates for this eastern population, Genesis chapter 10, verse 30 places their dwelling from Mesha, as thou goest unto Sephar, a mount of the east. Shem's branch then locks into the matrix. Genesis chapter 10, verse 31 lists the sons of Shem, after their families, after their tongues, in their lands, after their nations. By combining chronological markers with specific geographical bounds, Shem's lineage completes the third leg of the civilization map. Zooming out from the individual lineages allows us to view the entire post-flood landscape of the Near East. This antique map provides the canvas to synthesize the expansions of Japheth, Ham, and Shem into one unified document. We can see how the lines of family descent and spoken language overlay the physical terrain. The text summarizes the system in Genesis chapter 10, verse 32. These are the families of the sons of Noah, after their generations, in their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. The system reveals a symmetry at the heart of the text. Ancestral nodes align with spoken language, which dictates sovereign borders. Genesis 10 stands as an ethnographic baseline, the geopolitical lens required to trace the vectors of urban development and human identity across the ancient Near East.